Candidates. I'm Denny Zane, SMER co-chair. I'm going to be one of the people asking questions of you today. Patricia will be the other. Patricia, you there? Of course you were speaking.
Well, let me put my picture back on. I'm sorry.
So Ericka, my first question is, how was your party? Second question, you can answer them all in one, is explain to us who you are, a bit about your history and your interest in rent control and why you want to run the rent control board this year. But first of all, the party.
The party was fun. It was fun. Some people showed up. It was a very nice venue at 1212. And I just felt the love. I really appreciate it. I'm very humbled. The reason why, my name's Ericka Lesley, first off. And the reason why I'm running for Rent Control Board is to help our neighbors and make sure our communities stay diverse. As I've looked at the demographic change over the years, since my youngest son was in preschool, I've noticed that a lot of my neighbors and community members that I've grown to love and care for have left Santa Monica, for lack of a better way to state this, because they couldn't afford to stay in their units and they weren't aware of what their rights were. And I've also seen the difference when somebody actually does know what their rights were and how to adjudicate those and the help that they can receive.
Good. Patricia?
Okay, so we'd like to know a little bit about your history and involvement with SMER.
Well, I've been on the steering committee. It has been my pleasure to be on the steering committee. Short-lived, but I do enjoy my time with SMER. The platforms that we stand on are I hold close because they're close to my own personal beliefs. And SMER has been doing good work for 43 years. We need to continue that out further. Did I answer that right?
Yes, you did. And our next question is, will you talk to SMER about your decision making? But you've already evidenced that. You've already been doing that. So, so I assume that you will continue. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure.
Okay. And then do you support the People's Initiative GS or do you support the Brock Initiative DT?
It's a no-brainer. The People's Initiative generates more revenue, and we have to build affordable housing. It's a have to. We have to maintain our status and make sure that we receive federal funding to maintain our federal funding. So I think this is the only way that we're going to be able to fund the affordable housing at 100%.
Okay, and then I guess it's a little bit redundant, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. What are your goals, priorities, involvement, and philosophy in terms of Rent Control Board? What are your goals and priorities? Probably is the best.
Well, my priority is to increase engagement with rent control. I think a lot of our community members really don't understand the importance of rent control until the 6% measure or the 6% increase came to be, and the possible implementation of the 6% increase. And then everyone was all of a sudden concerned about rent control. I think that if we got more public engagement, that people would understand that just to have a solid base and safe and peaceful habitation is of most importance for you to do anything else. Okay. And also to diversify the languages that are in our communication so that we can reach all community members and not just some.
So the Rent Control Board and staff receive no direct tax support to fund it. The agency is funded through the annual registration fees, and budgeting is very important. What experience do you bring to the budgeting process?
Now, as far as the budgeting process, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure all this out as to how the budget is impacted and how to stretch that out. So I would have to really come to you guys for more expertise and just more wisdom as far as how to disperse the monies.
Okay, how does vacancy decontrol affect diversity?
Vacancy decontrol, it affects it by, number one, I've seen units that have been on the market for years and no one has ever applied for these units. Some units that have come to the forefront of my mind have been contacted. Nobody has ever returned a call. I've seen it's just absolutely ridiculous the amount of money also that units are hiked up after after a tenant leaves the former unit that's been there for years. Also, it doesn't help for our community. It doesn't diversify our community or keep even our diversity and equity intact when vacancies are not controlled as far as how much increase in rent could be made, or just to make sure that the units are made available for people to obtain a rental unit.
And yeah. And yeah, it's questions more about like who's moving out and who's moving in and anyhow, so what and this one I think is more in your zone is, what is your familiarity with the concerns of tenants, and which of these what are the most pressing concerns, that what's most important to you in terms of what tenants think?
Right now, tenants are more concerned about inflation. Of course, the increase in rent, and also the unjust and inequitable treatment of landlords of our elderly population and trying to strong arm them out of their units because of that 6% increase, and just the whole thought of getting more rent on those units that have been been secured for over 30 or 40 years.
Okay, Denny?
Yeah, recently the city council had discussions about proposed ballot measures to affect the rent control law. Can you tell us what some of them were proposed by the rent control board? Some of them were not. Can you tell us what your observations were about what was being proposed, and was there anything there that raised concerns for you about how it would affect the welfare of tenants?
Well, what I observed as I was in council till 4 o'clock in the morning was a proposed measure that was not necessarily vetted with rent control or just basically the professionals that are in the city, just to see what would the effects be. As I saw the rent control attorney expressing her views, I felt like it was attack on her person. I feel like anything that would be of that much of a magnitude of change should have been vetted not only with the professionals, but also weighed in, had some public buy-in as far as what people thought as well.
Okay, thank you. As you know, there were some things that were proposed to the council to be included that did not get included. So, for example, the rent board asked that term limits be raised to 3 terms limit rather than the 2-term limit now, to be consistent with other boards and commissions. The council did not do that. What was your understanding as to why they were?
Can I just offer my views on this right quick?
Yeah.
Rent control law is very complex. It takes many years for anyone to be a professional on rent control law or to even comprehend what it is. By the time a candidate or a rent control board commissioner is up to speed, it's time for them to leave. By the time you've reached your 8 years, you have so much time and experience and knowledge under your belt that it works in the opposite for rent control. It's like a deficit when somebody leaves with that much knowledge. It should have been extended to 3 terms, in all fairness. I don't think that all of the city council members might not fully understood the impact that that has on rent control law or in rent control board. So I don't think that it was done in malice or bad intent. I just think there wasn't a full understanding.
Nice.
You're generous.
Yeah. And I do think we have a little bit more time if there are anybody else wants to ask any questions of Ericka.
Okay,
Okay, Berea, you're on.
I would like to know more about you and where you lived and where you studied and where you are. I really would like to know more about you.
Nice.
Okay, Berea. I live in a Pico neighborhood. I'm not giving out my address.
You don't have to.
I have children, and that wouldn't be received very well. But I did study at Santa Monica College. I am a military brat, and I moved around a lot growing up, which made me kind of learn to kind of study people first before I really get close to them. I kind of, I'm a people person. I love people, but then sometimes I need my space. Just to be honest, as a human being, I have a passion to help people, and I can't help myself sometimes. Sometimes I go a little overboard, trying to help. But that's the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I'm running for rent control board.
Where were you born?
Hollywood,
In Hollywood. Okay.
on Sunset Boulevard, out of all places.
Thank you. The rent board is a very special place. I served on it for 7 years, and it was a very different situation than today because we were building the rent board and we were building the community and building the opportunity for rent control. It's now going in the other direction, where there is a lot of nasty opportunities for the developers and all the rest of it. And that becomes an issue when you sit up there and how you interact both with your companions and the community, because you're there on camera.
So is there a question?
Well, the question I'm setting it up because
Yes,
I think it is important to understand the position that you're going to most likely have and support it. But just keep on asking questions.
Well,
So I have
do.
another question that.
Okay, go on, Denny.
So I think it's important for us to understand why SMER objected to the proposal that was brought to the city council by other council members, who, when the rent board asked for a charter amendment to remedy the problem of the 6% cap, that apparently created in some people's minds an opportunity to try to make major revisions in rent control writ large. And there was one proposal that would have capped rents for 4 years, no increase, for tenants below the median rent, and then would allow the 6% to go forward and be baked in then to the MARs going forward for people above the median rent. What is your understanding as to why would why would we object to that arrangement? And if you don't, if you're not clear about it, I think maybe we should discuss it some, because
You're muted, Ericka, right now.
I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi glitched a little bit and I didn't hear what the question was. My apologies.
what is it that was objectionable about the proposal that came before the council from council members when they were deliberating on whether to put a charter amendment on the ballot? You know, the bigger picture had been fix the 6% problem, right? But
Yes,
they took that opportunity to try to do larger, broader changes in rent control, including, you know, lowering the rent for people, or fixing the rent with no increase for 4 years for people below the median rent, and increase the rent more for people above the median rent. Well, there's a couple things really wrong with that from our point of view, and I'm just wondering whether you have what you've gleaned from the discussion about what was wrong with that idea.
okay. So those of you that know me well know that I am a person that either I'm honest, not from either I'm honest. I tell my purview straightforward, no chaser. This is what the issues were. Number one, the timing. Number two, 2 o'clock in the morning. Number two was that not everyone knew exactly what was proposed. It was not clear and concise about what was going on, and there was confusion, and it caused a ruffling, to say very mildly, of feathers because no one knew what it was. Hinting, therefore, kind of like like the attorney said, a Brown Act violation. It appeared to be. Can I just finish? It appeared to be like in secrecy. Also, is that there's a reason why the charter was separated, rent control board from city council. That would have breached that separate of the two, unknowingly to the people that proposed it. It's very hard to sit in a position to hear things that are being proposed and that what is being proposed was not fully understood at the time of the proposal. It was not up for discussion from rent control board members, even retired or current, while this discussion was taking place. And at some point, some of us were told to be quiet.
Mhm.
So that's just a few. I don't think I have time enough to really go down the rest of the things that were wrong with the proposal.
And we actually are at the end of your interview. You don't have to stay on the hot seat any longer, and and we'll move on to Kurt. So we're going to ask Ericka if you please leave the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ericka.
Thank you.